Hi friends, welcome back. I painted that in a little over an hour and I did most of it on camera. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to show you how I did that super quick because sometimes you just need an easy win, a painting that goes together super quickly and super fun and super chill. You just want to relax and sit down and paint. And this is how I do it. I have shown you guys how I do this kind of background before, so I'm not going to put that part of the video in here. That took about half an hour. And then the rest of this video is going to be in real time, so you can see exactly how long it took me to paint literally the whole thing from start to finish. And yeah, it'll be fun. Let's get started. So, like I said, I'm not going to show you how I did that main background for two main reasons. The first being that I have shown you how I do that style of background before, and the second being that I thought my camera was recording when my camera was in fact dead. So I don't actually have that video, so you'll have to kind of take my word for it that it only took me about half an hour to paint that whole background. But I promise, it only took me about half an hour to paint that whole background. So now we're just going to be working on this kind of pink galaxy / aurora borealis situation. I was leaning more toward galaxy, but it came out a little bit more aurora-y at the end. So I don't know. I'm leaning toward calling it more of a galaxy than an aurora, but that's also more what I was going for, so of course I would. Essentially what happened with this painting was, obviously a couple weeks ago, as you know, I started that new underwater painting, and for the last week and a half, I have not had the time or the gumption to actually sit down and work on it, and I really want to make that a really fun, really good, solid series for you guys. So I want to have the time and the energy to put into working on that painting. And I just haven't had that lately. I just haven't. So when I sat down to paint on this particular night, I looked at the canvas for the underwater painting and I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to work on at the moment. What I wanted to work on was something that would be quick and fun and beautiful and that spoke to me in the moment, which was stars. So I just kind of picked a blue at random, and I picked Prussian blue. I mixed it with dioxazine purple. I did some deep teal, some white, some ivory black, and I mixed those together to do the background. And I had a moment where I had 30 minutes of a moment where I was just in the zone and just getting color on a canvas and having so much fun and really enjoying myself. And so I was really just letting myself be in the moment and just letting myself kind of play with this canvas and not have anything super specific in mind, not having something that was going to fulfill a goal for the year, which is what the underwater one, it's a sea dragon, yeah, but I'm not calling it a dragon painting, it's the underwater painting. The underwater painting is fulfilling a goal that I have, which is to do an underwater painting before the end of the year. And so that can make that one a little bit more daunting. And at this day when I was sitting down to paint, I just wanted to do something fun, something beautiful, something that wasn't high stakes. So it wasn't something that was completing a goal or anything like that. It was just a painting that I could have fun with, that I could enjoy, that I could play with. And I really enjoyed myself with this one. So here I have mixed a few different pinks. I don't remember exactly what shades I ended up with, but I know I mixed all of them with white. And I am blending them on the canvas the same way that I did the background. So I mix a lot of water with the paint, and I do kind of little blobs on the canvas with a angle brush, and then I switch to a fluffy brush and I blend all the colors together and kind of make them into a seamless shade. It really turns out very galaxy-esque. It's how I do the background like this. It gets into this really fun mix of colors. It allows you to see all of the colors, but from a distance you kind of see them as one. I don't know. It's really fun. It's really beautiful. It shows up in just a really cool way, and I love working with color like this. It's one of my favorite techniques to play with, especially for a background. And of course, this is the background. So the whole time I'm working on this, I'm going, I don't know where I'm taking this. I'm just working on this really cool sky, and it will go where it goes. At this point, it's been, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes that I've been working on this canvas, and I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just dabbing paint on a canvas and letting myself play with what I'm doing, with where I want the colors, with what's going to go where, with anything at all, really. I'm not planning anything. I am doing everything on the fly. And I thought that this made a really nice contrast to last week, where I'm doing a lot of planning for that underwater canvas, and I'm spending a lot of time doing the preparation and doing sketches and finding reference photos and really kind of doing a bunch of research on the different shapes and styles and tones that I'm going to have in that painting that I don't normally work with. Where on this one, I'm just making decisions on the fly and just kind of leaning back every couple of minutes, looking at the canvas and going, okay, so I think it needs more pink over here. And I think it needs a little bit of a lighter pink over here. And oh, I don't like how much blue is showing through on this spot. So maybe we'll blend some more color on top of that to give it more of the tone that I'm looking for. And I think the big thing that I wanted to show here, and the big thing that I wanted to contrast between this painting and the last video that I did, is that both of these are extremely valid and extremely common versions of doing art. And the same person can do both, and can do both very successfully. I have had a lot of paintings where I've done a lot of planning and they come out beautifully. And I've had a lot of paintings where I haven't done any planning. I've done everything by the seat of my pants, and they come out beautifully. When I was a writer, I did almost everything was by the seat of my pants. So I didn't outline anything. I didn't prep anything. I didn't plan anything. I would just sit down and I would have a character in my head, and I would just go, and I would see where the story took me. And so it is really fun a lot of the time to get to do that same thing with painting. And I don't think that's something that I really thought was going to happen necessarily. I had started doing more outlining by the time I really stepped back from writing. And I think in my head, that was just how you did painting. Like, you did more planning, you had more like upfront time where you would kind of sit down and decide what exactly you were going to put on the canvas, and what colors you were going to do, and how you were going to lay everything out. And sure, I do that sometimes. I probably do that about 50% of the time, if I'm being honest. But it is really fun to get back to my roots as a seat of your pants creator and get to just make something on the fly without really putting much thought into it. And honestly, being able to do something like this, not putting a ton of thought into it, and being really happy with the final result at the end of the day. And I'm not really sure that that's what I expected per se. I think I I was just painting to paint, and I figured, and I kind of go into a lot of paintings with this mentality that, well, if I don't like it, I can just gesso over it and I'll paint something else later. It's not a huge deal. I've done that with a few different canvases in the past. I have painted them, and then a few months later I'm just like, I don't like that painting, and I will either go back in and I'll change it, or I will just gesso over the whole thing and completely redo it. And it kind of varies as to which one I do. You never really know what you're going to get. And I think that's also one of the fun things with art in general, whether it be painting like this or even writing, is that if you go back to it and you don't like it, you can always redo it. There is absolutely nothing preventing you from redoing it. And that's part of why I don't varnish for a while after I've finished a painting. I will finish a painting and then I will sit on it for 3 to 6 months before I'll put any varnish on that painting, purely because I might want to make changes or I might want to undo some stuff. So here I have just gotten some very watery white paint on a fan brush, and I am doing some star splatters that are not as obvious on video as I was hoping they would be, but they're pretty obvious on the canvas as a whole. So you should be able to see it more at later points in the video. But this is where I really felt like it was starting to look more galaxy-esque than aurora-ish. I don't think the pink quite has the right shape to be auroras, but it does kind of it has more of a galaxy vibe to it, which I didn't really have reference photos or anything. The only thing I used a reference for was figuring out what shade of pink to go with. I just looked up pink space, and then I went through and figured out what shade that I had that would work. So that's all I did for reference, and I think it came out really pretty. I like how the sky turned out. I haven't really done anything like this before. I know I did that Aurora Borealis one, I think a couple years back at this point, and that one was a lot of fun, but I used a very different technique for it. I think at some point I will go back and do another winter scene like that with the auroras, because I think I could do better now, but, we'll see. One day. For now, I did this, and I really like it. So after I'd done all the star splatters, I wanted to do some very specific ones. I had an idea at this point to find some reference photos and maybe make some constellations, but it felt like that was going to be too much effort, and I was going to have to make a sketch on the canvas that I would then have to erase, and I really didn't feel like doing that. So I scrapped that idea and I just added in a few larger stars that, again, on video you can't really see, but I think it did add a lot in person. I think it just makes a little bit more sense. So at this point I am calling the background done, and that kind of surprised me in some ways, because again, it didn't take me that long to paint it. Like I said, this is real time. I didn't really cut out any of my breaks. You can see me grabbing paints and checking to make sure my camera's still on, all sorts of stuff like that. I wanted you guys to be able to see exactly how long something like this takes, because I think there is a misconception that art always takes a really long time. And I think in all reality, it depends on the art and it depends on the artist. Because even a lot of abstract artists who, yes, they paint their stuff really quickly, will spend days figuring out how they're going to paint it and what colors are going to go where and how they're going to do all the things they're going to do. And then there are other artists who will spend 3 or 4 times as long as I did painting a very similar sky to what I just did here. And will it be more technical and probably more accurate? Yes, but that doesn't make either of them any less artistic or any less beautiful. And that's one of the things that I love with art too, is that it is very much beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which means art is art, and art is for everyone, and there's always somebody who's going to love your art, and there's always somebody who's going to hate your art. And yeah, I don't know, case in point, I showed this one to a friend and she didn't like it. And honestly, for a bit that kind of bothered me, and then I was just like, you know what, she doesn't have to like it. I like it. That's what matters. I like it. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I honestly wouldn't change anything about how I did this one. On this bottom section here, I am doing a mix of that same Prussian blue and some Mars black, ivory black, one of the blacks, I don't remember which one, just to make basically a little hill that I can use as foreground. And me being me, obviously I will be putting foxes on this painting, because how could I not put foxes on this painting? But at this point, I'm having so much fun that I decided that I would love to just finish this painting in one evening. So I've got an idea, and I'm going to just carry it through, and I'm going to make this into a really fun, really pretty painting that I can finish in one sitting, which, again, that doesn't happen very often. A lot of the time, even my simpler paintings still take me 2, maybe 3 sessions to get done. I also don't often have hours and hours on end to sit down and work on a canvas. This particular night, I think I had about an hour and a half, and I used almost all of it. Some of it was just messing with my camera, trying to get it to work, but you know, such is life. Sometimes you gotta not do the art in order to make the art work. And then I've got Jester running around at my feet the whole time I'm working on this. So if you see an occasional flinch from me, it's probably cut because a rabbit ran past my feet and I wasn't expecting it. So camera died, so I did a little switch. I did not do the sketch on camera because it took me about 20 seconds. And by the time I finished it, I realized I hadn't started the camera. So, oops. But, so I did a little sketch of my 2 little foxes. I did use reference photos for this. I have a whole album on my phone of fox reference photos, and I just kind of pick through those, and I'll piece them together if I don't have a reference photo of a fox in the exact position that I want. I'll just kind of go, okay, well, I like the ears from this one, the nose from this one, and the back arch from this one, the tail from this one. I like how this one's paws are sitting. And so I'll just kind of use those to put something together, which is basically what I did here. I think I actually used 4 separate reference photos for 2 foxes. But I really like how it turned out. I ended up deciding to not really put any color on them and just do silhouettes, which I don't remember having done before with my foxes. I did do, and I tried to show it on the camera, and I think this might be the one thing I need to go in and fix on this painting, because I'm not sure it showed up as well as I wanted. But after I did the black with a little bit of blue for the silhouette, I do go in and I add just a little bit of blue to accent the blue fox, and a little bit of like a deep purple to accent the girl fox. And I think with it being on a nearly black shade, it just doesn't show up quite as well as I wanted it to. But again, there's nothing wrong with going back and making little fixes even after you thought your work was done and you signed it as complete. So that'll be just a quick little tweak that I make one of these days when I have a minute to sit down and paint. I don't really like to get out all the stuff for painting and then only do 2 minutes of painting. So the next time I sit down to work on the underwater one is probably when I'll add that little bit of blue and a little bit of purple to these 2 foxes. I just really liked the concept of keeping this one really simple and having the sky be the thing that you're really looking at, but then have this kind of romantic and cute little scene of the two foxes that are kind of snuggled up to each other, looking up at this galaxy in the sky. And I just thought it was really pretty. It was in the moment, it felt really powerful and really beautiful. And I was just so enjoying myself. And I still so enjoy this painting. Every time I have gone back in my office and I look at it, it makes me smile. It makes me happy. And again, that's what art should be. It should be the thing that makes you smile. It should be the thing that elicits a beautiful emotion. And I know that some art can elicit the negative emotions, and I can see the appeal in those as well. For me personally, I'm looking for the beauty in life. I'm looking for the beauty in art. And so that's what I like to create. That's what I like to put on my walls. That's what I like to make for you guys. That's what I like to show you guys. And I hope that you guys enjoy that as much as I do, because I don't know, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the pretty stuff. So I spend a decent amount of time working on these little fox silhouettes, and then at some point here I'll go in and add some little grassy details to the hill itself, because looking at it and it just needed a little something, just a little zhuzh, so that it wasn't too bland. I don't necessarily want to say bland though. Too simple, I'll go with, because that sky is so beautiful and so unique that then not having any texture on the ground just felt a little bit off. Yeah, so here I am. I'm adding these little grassy bits, because that just added a really nice level of detail without really adding much detail at all. I thought that added just the right little touch of more life to the painting. And I thought about doing little tree silhouettes or more of my favorite plants, but it just didn't quite go with the vision that I was having for this piece while I was in the middle of painting it. It didn't want to be any busier than this. It wanted to be a simple painting that was all about two lovers looking up at the stars and saying, "These stars are ours." And in case it wasn't obvious, that's what I named this painting. I hadn't even actually painted the stars on yet. I just had this idea of it being, it was back when I was doing just the background, and I had this idea of, I'm going to put two foxes on here and they're just going to be looking up at the stars. And then maybe the boy fox looks at the girl fox and it's like, "Oh, these stars are ours, love." And, one thing leads to another, and then you have your painting named. So this one is called "These Stars Are Ours," and I really love it. I think it was just what I needed on this particular evening. I just needed a really fun, really beautiful, really meaningful and seat of your pants style painting. And that's exactly what I got here. And I thought that would be a lot of fun to share with you guys and let you see, again, just the two different methods you can use for doing a painting. You can put all the time and all the effort in ahead of time to make sure that you have this like fully fleshed out, fully planned out painting. Or you can sit down by the seat of your pants, pick out some paint colors, and just go and see what happens. And either way, you end up with some really cool art, some really beautiful, really meaningful, really powerful stuff. And I think, honestly, that's what we as artists are going for. We just want to make, we want to create, we want to let loose this passion that's inside us in one way or another. And it is really fun to get to see the multiple different avenues that we can do that, and the multiple different methods we can take to achieve that same goal. I just think it's really fun, and yeah. So thank you guys for joining me on this little journey of art. I know that my camera angles on this one were not amazing. The foxes are super, super reflective because the paint's not dry yet, so you can't really see them. So I did make sure to put a still of this finished painting at the end of this video for you guys so you can see exactly what the finished product looks like. I hope that you love it as much as I do. Again, I think this one is absolutely gorgeous. I had a grand time doing this. I finished it and I sent pictures to a few of my friends and I was like, I finished this in about an hour and I don't really understand how that just happened. And that's always fun to get to reach out to people with a new painting and just be like, look at this cool thing that I did. Look at how exciting this is. And then to have people celebrate that with you. It's really fun. It's really meaningful, and it's a really great way to kind of build and strengthen friendships. So if you are a maker, a creator, an artist, I do recommend that you share your art with someone, at least one person, preferably a couple, because it's just nice to get to share it with other people and get to have that feedback. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in a couple weeks where hopefully we'll work on that underwater painting. Bye! Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chill videos with art.